Hi, everybody, and welcome to Simply Cards by Kathi. Today is Thursday, the 8th of May, 2025. If you're with me live, thank you for joining me. And if you catch me on the replay, thank you for taking time out of your day to go back and watch. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm so happy you found me, and I really hope you like what you see. Today, I'm excited to share with all of you how to use background stamps. You know, I've had people ask me, and even team members, and this month during this month's in-house card class that I had, some of my team members or some of my customers said, we don't know how to use background stamps. So I'm going to show you several ways you can use them. I'm going to show you 4 different techniques to use in using them. I'm going to show you the finished cards. We're going to make one of the cards, and then I have a 5th one to show you a little bit something different. So I have lots to share with you. Hi, Linda. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining. So I am excited to get started. So I'm going to flip this down, and we're going to get going because we have a lot to cover. Okay, the stamp set I'm using is actually in the new catalog. It's called Peaceful View. I love background stamps, but I have to tell you, when I first saw them, I'm like, what the heck do I do with them other than just stamp them one color and kind of make a layer? I'm going to show you some different ways. So it is one large stamp. I have it mounted in my Misty, and I'm using my small Misty. And I've even trimmed some of the extra layer off the side to get a tighter fit in here. Now, for all of the cards, I will have measurements with the downloadable PDF for you by the end of the day tomorrow. But just so you know, I am starting off with a layer that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 for every single one of these techniques to show you. So, hi, Carol. Thanks for joining. So, I'm going to show you the technique, and then I'm going to show you the finished card. And we're just going to go through these one at a time. So, when using some type of stamping apparatus, and there are several out there, you want to position your cardstock, and I'm using a piece of crumb cake. And I'm going to put it right down in the corner here. Now, normally you have a magnet that will hold this down. I've removed mine because I can't really put it anywhere on the cardstock here because this stamp's going to fill the cardstock up. So I'm going to take a little bit of temporary adhesive, just put a little bit on the back, and I'm going to pop it on there, and that will hold it in place. Now I'm using crumb cake, but I decided to use pecan pie for my first technique. Now, when you ink the stamp, you just want to evenly cover it. And this is one stamp. As I played with it, I kept thinking, I'm missing a spot or two. And I really wasn't. This has a little bit of a variation for texture in it. The one reason I love using a stamping tool for this, or a positioning tool, is because I can go back over it and get it to the shade of color I want. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to put that down, and I'm having some trouble with my arms. That's why I had to cancel Tuesday. I had cortisone shots in both shoulders. So I'm using this little stamping tool to help apply a little bit of pressure and rub my ink on. So you can see I don't have the coverage that I want there. I'm going to pick this up and show you. You can see there's just some bare spots in there. So I'm going to go back over it and re-ink. Now, you can re-ink this as many times as you want. I do 2 to 3, depending on the coverage that I'm looking for. But I want this with the pecan pie to look really bold. I want it to look rich on this crumb cake. So with the positioning tool, it stays right in place. And I'm just going to give it a good press. Okay. So Good, but I'm going to go one more time. And the reason is we will use this, or I will use this to make a card. The card for this one I have finished to show you how I used it. Now, when I'm inking, I'm trying to go flat so I don't get a lot of lines on my stamp, like lines from touching the edges. And then back over for the last time, and just going to use this to, it's called a Chucky, to ink this up. Okay, this looks pretty good. So now this is darker. It's going to dry lighter. So look at that image. Now these aren't spots that are missed. You're going to see that these are like this throughout every stamped image. It just gives it a little bit of look for a texture. I'm going to close this up and clean off my stamp because we're going to be using it for and move that out of the way, for our next technique for this. And I'm going to pop in here and show you the card that I made with it. Each card's a little bit different. Measurements are pretty much all the same, but I will have that PDF that'll break down each card for you one by one. I'm going to go ahead and set this off to the side for just a minute to dry. And here's the card that I made using this. Now remember I said I start out with a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and then I trim it down. So I trimmed almost all of mine to 3 3/4 by 5 because I layered them on another complementary or contrasting color. And this is going to dry a little bit lighter, but just a great masculine card, a sympathy card, thinking of you. And when I trim this down to 3 3/4 by 5, I save my edging and I use it to add to the inside layer of my card. And that kind of carries over from your decor from the outside. So we're going to set that off to the side. We'll bring it back in a little later. Let me bring in the next one for you. So we have cleaned this and we did one color. I'm going to show you how to do multiple colors on this. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can use Stampin' Up markers. And if you do, I would suggest doing a portion at a time because it dries out before you get to transfer it over to the paper. But the one thing is that I really didn't like about that is I didn't feel like I got really good lines. So I'm going to show you how to use Daubers and then kind of clean it up with your Stampin' Up markers. So again, I'm going to use some low tack removable tape. I'm going to go ahead and fit it in here. Hi, Flo. Hi, Kim. Thank you for joining. And our stamp is clean and it is dry. So I'm using two colors. I'm going to use Pecan Pie and I'm going to use Mossy Meadow. That's one of my favorite greens because it's such a rich color. Now, when you're doing this, you want to make sure your ink pads are well inked because you're going to be picking up a fair amount of ink from your pads, and you want to be able to get good coverage. Now, I am going to tell you, you aren't going to get everything in one. You're going to have to go over it. And we're not going to do the whole thing. I'm going to do part for you, but I have a card with it completely finished. So I'm using just the small daubers from Stampin' Up. I have one for each color family. And I'm just going to daub it or tap it lightly on my pad. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to follow the lines for the tree trunk. Now, I'm not even going to do all of them at once. And some of them are going to maybe get up onto the leaves, and I'm not going to worry about it. I do have a little microfiber cloth here that if I really want to, I can clean some of that off. But I want to go ahead and we're going to add a little bit more color to this. And then I'm going to go ahead and, so this is like a little bit at a time. If you're looking to do it in a hurry, this technique probably is not for you. But I love the results of it. And you can see, again, I have some bare spots. So I'm going to re-ink my Dauber and I'm just going to tap and go over it again. And come back down. And give it a good press. All right. So you can see it's starting to take some shape here. So I'm going to go a little bit further on this, and I'm using like the edge. I'm trying to hold this on a slant and get just as much of the trunk as I possibly can without actually hitting all the leaves. And you can do pretty well. I think you'll see that when you see the finished card. But I'm just going to go ahead and give this some good coverage. And we're going to go again. And if you go over it, you start to see that you're starting to get your tree trunk there. Now, yes, you do have a little bit of the leaves there. That'll cover up with your green. And I wasn't looking for this to be perfect. It almost looks a little bit more like a painting when you see it. And it just gives it a nice soft look. And you actually get some color to the image without doing all one color. So we're going to stop on the, what am I using? Pecan pie. We're going to add a little bit to the leaves so you can see how that's going to look. So when I'm done with my Daubers, I take like a piece of copy paper and just dab them off until they're dry. And then as long as they're clean like that, you can go ahead and use them with your other browns or whatever color family you're using. Now I'm coming in with Mossy Meadow, and let's do just a little bit of the leaves so you can see how that's going to work. And I'm going to start over to the side here where I got a little bit of the brown so you can see how it's going to cover. And I just dab. Now, the one thing you don't want to do is wipe, because all you're going to do is take your ink right off your stamp. So add some ink, dab it, then go back in, get some more ink and add to it. And let's go ahead and turn that over. So if you have questions along the way, please do not hesitate to put them in the comments. I promise to try to watch and answer them. So you can see here, I'm going to go back over that area so that you can see what it'll look like when it's done, and how you can get a little bit richer color by just doing a couple layers. And again, this does take a little bit of time, but it was so worth the way this turned out. I was really happy with it. So let me show you that with the tree. And I'm going to pick that up, and you can see even your leaves here kind of covered where the brown was, kind of carried over onto the leaf. Now I want to show you something. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I want to show you the fence. So with the fence, I'm going to go back to our pecan pie. And if you have to, I'm going to then show you how you can add to it or straighten up the lines with your Stampin' Right markers. So again, I'm just using the edge of my Dauber, and it's really hard not to get into some of the grass on the bottom. But again, that's going to cover up with our, when you go to the green. And I know you probably think I'm crazy, but I'm going to show you the card here in just a second. So if you do that a couple times, and you still want a little bit more depth, let me come in here where you can see me and try to keep my arm out of the way, coming in from the side. Let's do that. Okay, let me take that off. Okay. And look at how well that covers. Now you're starting to pick up the grass, but again, that green is so dark, it's going to cover up. Now let me clean this off, and I'm going to show you what the little trick was I did for my bird. You could use any color, but I think I made this a sympathy card. And you always hear that if you see a cardinal, it's a loved one coming to visit. And so I decided, since I was going to make it a sympathy card, I would go ahead and use my red Stampin' Up marker. So let's clean this. I want to clean this well because we're going to go on to 2 more techniques. Let's close these up. Otherwise, I will wear them. And I have my, I first have the pecan pie. Let's say you want to add just a little bit more, and I'm going to leave this down for you to see. You can take the Stampin' Up marker, and with very light movement or flicking motions, you can fill that in. Now for my little bird, the bird is right over here. I take the brush part, and I'm using cherry cobbler, and I'm just going to color in my little bird and come back and give him a good press. And I think I did him 3 times to get the red as I wanted him. And you just come back in, and you don't want to wait too long to restamp because this ink does dry quickly. You can always huff on it in your wet, moist breath. The heat and the moisture from your breath will moisten it again. But let me get that done here. And I'm going to pick that up, and you can kind of see where we're going with the technique of using a dauber. Now, here's my finished card. Let me get this out of the way. So I cut this down, and I really love the way this turned out because I have almost like a painted look to it. And I did kind of with the fence, I did add a little bit to my fence, but trimmed it down to 3 3/4 by 5, mounted it on some pecan pie to pick up the color in my stamped image, and then put it on some soft seafoam. And then remember, I said when I trim that down to 3 3/4 by 5, I save the edge that I trim off and use it to carry through on the inside of the paper. See, Flo says, I don't have good luck with markers either. So I'm going to blame that on me, I guess, not the markers. But I just don't have good luck with using my Stampin' Up markers to color images in. Okay, next 2 techniques. The first one, we're going to do some heat embossing. Now, when I go from one to another, I am using my Stampin' Mist, and I'm using a microfiber towel. You could use your chamois, but you just want to make sure that you get all the color out of there and give it just a second to dry. Okay, so, all right. Ready for the third technique? Hi, Diane. You're in Ohio along with me. Thank you for joining. So let's think about heat embossing. So with heat embossing, you're going to get a whole different look to this. So I'm using the new Secret C. I love this color. And again, I'm just going to add some low tack tape. And before I do anything with this, I want to use my buddy here and embossing buddy and just make sure I give this a good going over. Okay. Now, if you're using heat embossing, you want to use Versamark ink and you want to get good coverage. So I, again, will probably go over this twice. These are re-inked as of today, so they should be pretty juicy, and I may get really good coverage with them the first time. But going ahead and gonna add this over to the side and use my little Chucky here. And let's pick this up. And I can use a little bit more coverage in here. I'm missing just a little bit. So let's go over it one more time, because I really want to get that tree trunk as nice and solid as I can. And let's go ahead and do this again. So I was very excited to show this to you, and was hoping my shoulders would cooperate today. All right, that looks pretty good. Now, this area in here, I don't know if you can see that lightened area in the trunk. That has come up on almost every stamp that each time I've stamped it. And I don't know if it's my stamp or it's meant to be. But I'm going to ink just the trunk and go back over that and see if I can get a little bit better coverage here. So it's just all about how much you want to fuss with it, I guess. And let's take that off. It looks a little bit better. All right. So beautiful if you want to just go ahead and do Versamark ink and do tone on tone. But I'm going to come in with some Wow, the white embossing powder. And we're going to emboss this on white. And I'm just going to come in here and give it a good coating. I'm trying to keep my hands off of it and just make sure we get really good coverage. Now I'm going to tap this off lightly. And it looks good. Now I have noticed on my stamp in this corner, I have not gotten coverage each time. So, and we use this stamp for our May class. So I'm going to turn on my heat tool, and I apologize for it being loud. If you have Stampin' Up heat tool, you know that you can, you would use it for heat embossing. You would use it on the setting number 2 for the highest setting. I have just a tweezers here, and I'm going to come in and hold it. And we're going to go ahead and heat this up. Now, it'll take just a minute for it to start, but you'll be able to see it turn. Now, when I'm heat embossing, I keep my tool on an angle and I just follow it right through. And that way I typically can see I'm getting good coverage. So I'm going to come back in and just follow. You can see it changing. It's like magic, but I love the look of it. And you don't want to overheat it because one of two things or both can happen. You'll flatten out your embossing, or your embossing, if it overheats, can actually bubble up. And then it doesn't look quite as smooth as it would otherwise. I'm holding this about 4 to 5 inches away from my layer, and just letting it do its magic. And we're just about done. We'll go back up and catch the rest of the tree. There we go. Okay. So you have this beautifully embossed layer. And once it's done, I did trim it down. I have a couple things to show you with this one. And I cut it down again, 3 3/4 by 5. I mounted it on our new color. I can never remember it. It's called Cloud Cover. And I heat embossed using just Versamark and my Secret C ink right on the cloud cover. So if you go with a stamp, and you may have done this before, ink your stamp with Versamark, then ink it with your color, stamp it, and then cover it with clear embossing powder and just heat it up. So another thought for this card, because so far they've all been layer on layer. You could frame this, and this one's done, but this is a frame. What did I use these? I forget what I used. I used the textured notes dies, and you could cut a frame if this wasn't here, and you could frame in your stamped image. And that's just another look for how you can use these. So there's this one. We're going to set this off to the side. Let's do our last technique, then I have a surprise card for you. So the last technique, I wanted to do tone on tone. And to do that, I needed a piece, and here it is, disappeared. Nope, I guess I forgot it. Hold on 1 second. Got to get a piece of my, I've got it right here. I am using Lost Lagoon, and I want to just do tone on tone for this. So with this one, I'm going to reuse the stamp with Versamark ink. So we're going to pop this in here and re-ink with Versamark. Oh, Flo, I love the cloud cover too. I think 3 of my favorite colors now are Cloud Cover, Secret C, and Strawberry Slush. So let's ink this up. And now this one really, forgot to put the tape down. We're going to re-ink this again because I have found with using this stamp, and I have used it probably 15 times already, it requires more than one inking. It's a very large surface area stamp, and you just want to make sure that you get good coverage so that you get the effect that you want from this stamp. So, okay. Hence why I tape it down. Let's go one more time. And then we are going to cover this with clear embossing powder. And the look is just gorgeous when it's all done. So let's make sure that's there. Oh, Flo, I forgot the embossing buddy. You're right. So let's, I'm going to keep my fingers and toes crossed, say a prayer, and hope that we get some good coverage. Because you're right, I did forget the embossing buddy. So let's come in with our clear ink, our clear embossing powder. And I'm just going to pick this up lightly and keep it over my container and cover it. If we don't get a good outline, the card I have done is beautiful. So you'll see it from that look. But yes, use your embossing buddy. Don't do as I forgot to do. Just going to tap this off a little bit. And that actually looks pretty good. I want to cover this up at the top here. I didn't get it covered quite as well. All right, let's heat this up and see what this is going to look like. So I'm going to turn this. I am going to put it right on top. I find that if I lay it on my glass mat, it seems to heat up a little quicker. So again, loud noise. And this is going to look a little different. If you've not done tone on tone with clear embossing powder, you're just going to get a darker, shiny effect to your cardstock. As you can see how that's just kind of doing its magic. But I love this look. It almost looks like glass on top of your cardstock. It is easy to see if you're new to heat embossing where you may miss some of the embossing powder because it's going to have keep a lighter look, and you won't have that shininess to it. Let's go with this. I'm trying to keep it flat so you can see it. And missed a little up here. And that looks, let's get that. There we go. That looks good. So here's tone on tone using just Versamark ink and some clear embossing powder. Now let me show you we're going to do this card. So I already have one that's done, and I've cut this down to 3 3/4 by 5. And I'm going to go ahead and mount this on white. It's because I've had all of them done, and I know I've had a couple of you say, oh, when you show us so many like this, we'd like if you make just at least one of them. So we're going to make one of them. And I'm mounting that just on white, and I'm going to then mount that layer onto not Lost Lagoon, but Pretty Peacock. And we're going to mount that one. Now, this would be a wonderful masculine birthday card. A thinking of you, a get well. Um, just such a versatile stamp set. Today I got my order from Stampin' Up, and I ordered another one of a different background stamp. So with this one, on the inside, I actually took the strip I cut off, did the same thing, and attached it, and we'll go ahead and adhere that in there. And then I had a greeting here that was happy birthday, specifically for a masculine card. And I think I dropped the greeting somewhere here because I don't see it. But I will have a picture of it on my blog post tomorrow. So okay. So we went from this to this, and then you can add your greeting. Oh, here it is. So I stamped happy birthday and thought it would look, you could put it down here, you could put it right here, and I'm just going to pop it up with a couple dimensionals. Then I have one card to show you that's completely different, using one of these images, but doing something than just a full panel of the image. I'm going to put that right there. And there's our birthday card. So let me show you the fifth one. For this one, I did it as panels. So you can take your image, I cut it down to the size I wanted, and then I cut it into strips. So it is cut into, for a card that's 5 1/4, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I added a white embossed layer, and you really don't see the embossing except the strip, little spaces in between. I used the exposed brick. And then with the cloud cover, I cut 3 strips that were 1 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then I cut my stamped image at 1 inch by 5 1/4. And I mounted them and then put them on Stampin' Dimensionals. And it looks like you have that paneled image of for your card front. And then again, used my strip. So let's bring these all back in here for you to see. And no, there's one more here somewhere. The one with the colors. Here it is. So many different ways you can use the background stamps. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I had so much fun doing it. Sometimes we see a product and you see one thing and you go, well, I love the image, but if I stamp it, what else can I do with it? Well, I hope I've given you some ideas of what to do with your background stamps. And this will carry over to just about any of the others. So I hope you'll give it a try. I will have that PDF ready for you by the end of the day tomorrow. I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you for being flexible with me and joining me on Thursday instead of Tuesday. And I will see you Tuesday again at 7 o'clock. Stay safe and well, everybody.